When I look in the mirror, who do I see? A girl, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a student. All of these people, are they really me? I see myself through a looking glass, playing all these parts, pieces of a puzzle, a mosaic, where I hope people say, wow, what a work of art. But is this a representation of me or the version I want others to see? When I look in the mirror, sometimes it's really hard because I'm doing my best to never let down my guard. Yet, there are moments where I love letting my smile free. When I pick a different flavor or choose the other color, unapologetic and true, showing the world, hey, it's me. And now when I look in the mirror, it fragments into brilliant pieces. A kaleidoscope where I can look at the world while being all these different parts, but knowing truly, I am my own work of art. What you just heard was my poem titled Beyond the Mirror. I wrote this poem to describe my complex relationship with the mirror and my struggle with my self-esteem. Poetry seemed to be the perfect way for me to voice my thoughts because I've always found that channeling my emotions and thoughts into it has been the most safe space for self-reflection and artistic expression. I wanted to ask myself, who am I when no one else is watching? But let's start from the beginning. More specifically, the formative years of every human's life, being a little kid. I was born in the US and moved to India as a 3-month-old baby. And for the next 5 years of my life, I grew up in South India. During these early years, my attitude towards myself was unapologetic and proud. 5-year-old me was a force to be reckoned with. She loved the color hot pink, rocked a pixie cut, wanted to be a rock star and a dentist. I know, lethal combination. Wasn't afraid of coloring outside the lines and loved who she was and who she was becoming. When I was just about to turn 6, we moved back to the US and settled in the Bay Area. At first, everything felt unfamiliar and daunting, but soon I began to find my rhythm, making new friends, starting at a new school, and slowly establishing a new home. The years of elementary school for me were filled with the magic of childhood. And then, COVID hit. We were all trapped at home, and I was simultaneously undergoing one of the most uncomfortable transitions ever, puberty. Because of the pandemic and the shift to everything being online, my life became controlled by screens. And I fell into the trap of spending hours looking at perfect posts online. I struggled with online school and felt that I was falling behind everyone else in my class. I struggled a lot with my body image. My confidence in my abilities fell, and over time, my self-esteem began to dwindle. And mirrors, well, I avoided looking into them completely because I was so afraid to see something I didn't want to see. And the thoughts would nag me and knot in my stomach. Did I not look smart enough if I asked a question in class? Was my outfit too weird? Was I doing enough to seem hardworking? During this time, I fell victim to a cycle many of us are all too familiar with, external validation. And yet, no one was actually telling me what to do or how I should be. Rather, I was imagining what I thought they were thinking about me. The American sociologist Charles Horton Cooley described this idea over a century ago with his theory of the looking glass self. He said, we don't see ourselves just as who we think we are, or the way that others actually perceive us. Instead, we see ourselves as who we think others think we are. But what does any of this mean? Well, it begins by us imagining how we look to others. Next, we imagine their judgment of that appearance. And finally, we develop our feelings towards ourselves based on that imagined idea. Basically, it's like looking into a mirror, but seeing yourself through the eyes of someone else, meaning our self-perception is being driven by an external factor, which is exactly what I was facing as a young teen. But if we solely rely on external validation to support our self-esteem, our sense of self can become extremely fragile, like how I described in my poem, because of how dependent we are on ideas we think others will have about us, instead of cultivating self-worth from within. Many of us limit our authenticity. We feel the need to curate versions of ourselves instead of cultivating self-worth from within. I want you all to reflect for a moment about how you see yourself, about how you make the choices you make, and most importantly, who is influencing this process. Did you choose to take that class because you really wanted to, or because you thought someone else would think it was impressive to take? Do you dress yourself a certain way because you like that style, or because you think others will? Do you act the way you act, talk the way you talk, like the things you like because they are true to who you are, or is it all to seem a certain way to impress someone else? Who are you really living for? And I started to ask myself all these questions because when I entered high school, I realized I was exhausted of living my life according to what was approved by other people. I wanted to seem smart and popular and good at everything. But ultimately, I came to realize our lives are for us and only for us to experience. So, what if we took control of our self-esteem and let go of this cycle of external validation to embrace authenticity and find the freedom to discover the power of you? And there are 2 steps I believe can help us to change our mindset and practice self-empowerment. 1 is reflect, and 2 is remember. And I urge you all to consider trying at least one of them. Number 1, reflection. Reflection is the act of pausing to deeply think about past moments. And the beauty of it is it can be done through pretty much any activity, whether it's journaling, meditating, running, or making art. During each of these activities, use this mindful moment to think about how you see yourself, whether it's the things you do, the relationships you're in. When you start to collect the bits and pieces which make up the unique parts of your identity, it provides the perfect opportunity to see how they all fit together. This way, we can see how we are a composition of so many different things, quite literally, art. And I found that poetry is the most mindful space where I can thoughtfully reflect. And through my practice, I came to realize the composition of who I am. I am a daughter, a sister, a student whose favorite subject is English, an Indian classical dancer, a poet, someone who doesn't really like algebra, someone who loves to make her friends and family laugh, and a teenager who's just trying to grow up. All of these parts make me who I am, things which I can call my own and are a part of my life. They aren't things I forced myself to like or dislike to please other people. Rather, they're all a reflection of me. And so, this leads me to the second step. Remember remember what you have reflected on. Remember that each of the parts that makes up your identity is worth celebrating. And you don't have to change in a way in which you think will please other people. Each time I have a negative thought towards myself, or I compare myself to someone else, I think back to 5-year-old me, and I realize I'm telling that little girl that she isn't enough. You are one in over 8 billion people, and you are not living your life for someone else. We all have the agency to determine how we want to live our lives, and it's up to us to figure out what that will look like. Through reflection and remembering, you can turn your focus inward, validation for yourself by yourself. And I don't mean to undermine the validity of compliments or recognition from others. I simply mean to offer a sustainable plan for self-esteem. Self-esteem built only on external validation lacks stability. It can rise and fall with a simple glance, like, or comment. The kaleidoscope I talked about in my poem isn't made up of fragments of what others want to see when they look at you, but rather the colors of your own design which you can look through. I went from never wanting to look in the mirror some days to now using it as a way to see a reflection of all of my unique qualities. And it's important to understand that self-compassion and self-confidence aren't egotistical. Rather, they are important roots which help us grow into thriving individuals. Ultimately, embracing the autonomy of our lives begins the day we decide to value our reflections over the imagined judgments of others. And so, I challenge each and every one of you to ask, how do you see yourself? Thank you.